Welcome back to another episode of the Premier League Rundown. And this week there's been a lot of action, especially at the bottom of the table. And we'll first get into one of them actions. Bournemouth 1, Liverpool 0. A great game of football. It was another great performance by Bournemouth. I've said in the past few weeks they've been impressive spurts in their performances, but coming up against City and Arsenal, they were never able to get results in there. But they were impressive at times. They defended well at times. They got forward well at times. Like their transitions, getting forward, the short passing, with Utara and Anthony on the wings and Slanky in that like deep line forward role, linking up the path and Billing as well, getting forward. I thought it was quite good, and in this game it all worked. It all worked from open play. Liverpool had nothing against them. They created like 0.5 xg against them from open play. Their best chances were from the corners from Van Dijk, heading it wide twice, and then Salah's penalty, which he smashed wide. But from open play, they defended really well. They weren't like deep, like they weren't all like 9 players back in their own half, in their own box even. They defended, they pressed quite high in the first half. They dropped back in the second half once they took the lead a bit more, but they always threatened on the counter. They were pressing high. They didn't allow Liverpool too much time on the ball, and it really got at Liverpool. They had no creativity, especially from midfield. They really struggled with that. And their goal was well worked. It wasn't a counter or anything. It was from a goal kick. Neto with a great ball down the right hand side, ball down the line, and then a great cut back to Billing. Van Dijk had nothing. It's just one of the things that Van Dijk's been really struggling with this season. Like in recent years, he could afford to jockey off players because he had that little burst of acceleration that if the player made movement, he can come back and defend it. But he's standing off players and they're just getting past him now, and you gotta go. At some point, you gotta start committing to these challenges because he's standing off way too much. And yeah, and that allowed Itara, who was dangerous all game. He had a couple other chances, as with Anthony on the other wing, to get goals, but they didn't. Sometimes they didn't even lead to shots. But he cut it back. Billing, who's been really good entering the penalty box this season, entering it late, and great position and great goal. Terrible defending by Liverpool, really bad. Not enough pressure on the ball on that their left hand side. Van Dijk's defending, and then nobody tracking Billing's run. Poor defending from Liverpool, especially after the 7-0 win last week. Really, really poor. But that's been their away form this season. Away from home, they've been really bad. They've played 13 games away from home. They've won 3, drawn 3, and lost 7. Really, really bad. And the next 2 away games against Manchester City and Chelsea. So could you see them getting wins there? Maybe not. Probably not. But yeah, really bad from Liverpool. You thought after not even just the win against Man United, the 7-0 win, they had a few. That was 5 clean sheets in a row, 4 clean sheets in a row, 5 wins in a row. You thought, is this getting back to them? But away from home, they were just really, really bad. From just really struggling for creativity. Nothing there at all for them. Really, really bad. But Bournemouth, if you exclude the City and Arsenal games where you expect Bournemouth to get pummeled, they conceded 3 goals in 5 games, which is quite good, and that includes a game against Liverpool, other games, and I think since the transfer window and they got a few more players who Tara in, I think they've looked really better. Even like Traore in midfield, he hasn't played that much recently, but they look a much more threatening side. They have their different kind of threats and even energy off the bench as well. Through Semenyo off the bench, he caused some problems late on. I just have a few more options now, and they look quite good. Especially like they don't play super deep, they don't press super high. They know their limitations, and they know what they want to do in attack. They're quick with it. They're direct at times. They can play it short. I think they're looking really good, and a brilliant 1-0 win. And I think that win was coming, and it didn't take them out of the relegation zone. I think. I think the West Ham win later on, or West Ham result later on, put them back in. But they're there and thereabouts. They're not falling behind, which is good for them. Move on to another game. Big change at the bottom of the table. Everton 1, Brentford 0. Brentford's streak is over. Their massive unbeaten streak is over, and really good performance by Everton, especially first half. They sat back in the second half, if you like, as you expect Sean Dyche's team to. They got lucky in the second half, but they came at them in the first half. Everton, they attacked in the first half. They got their goal through Dwight McNeil, great strike, and just attacking. There's so much pace to their attack, so much crispy with their attacks under Dyche than they were with Lampard. Against Lampard, it was sometimes slow, sometimes quick. Weren't really committed many players forward. When they're counter-attacking a Dyche, their players are direct. They're quick with it. They know what they're doing. They know where to need to be, and it looks really good. They've really improved their attack on Dyche. That's maybe the surprising thing. The defensive side, they haven't improved that much, but attacking wise, been a massive improvement. And yeah, in the second half, a few crosses into the box really causing danger. A few loose balls here and there. They defended really well. Last ditch tackles, last ditch saves from Pickford. So they got a bit lucky there. Maybe they sat back a bit too much, allowed Brentford to come onto them too much, but Brentford weren't able to take their chances. And yeah, it was their fifth league loss this season, fourth least in the league. So that you can't complain if you're Brentford. A loss was coming at some point, and away to Everton, who'd been really good at Goodison Park and Dyche. That's one thing Dyche has really needed. They needed to get their home form. When you're in relegation battle, you just need to get results home. And in 4 games, 3 wins and a loss, including wins against Brentford and Arsenal and relegation candidates Leeds, very important wins. Really important wins. And they look a lot better under Dyche. You can definitely tell that they have a certain style to them and a certain threat to them that they just didn't have under Lampard. Teams weren't scared of Everton, but Everton now, especially in first half of games, they're really good. They haven't had to do it over 90 minutes trying to attack, but in first half they come out really, really strong. They did it against Nottingham Forest, and they did it here as well. Moving on, another team, just going to be a load of teams at the bottom of the table because that's just so tight down there now. But Leeds 2, Brighton 2. It was a weird performance by Brighton because in parts they looked really good. They did control the game very well. Possession made massively in favour of them. They got their goal. Great work. Mitoma cutting that header back to McAllister. Great work goal. Mitoma had Ayling on toast the whole game, even on the ball and off the ball. On the ball, he got past him a few times. Off the ball, Ayling got caught out so many times. But just a couple lapses on concentration, couple misplaced passes, and they got punished for it. The Bamford shot from the edge of the box deflected. That's going to happen to you. And in the second half, they kind of took control of the game again in the second half. They had possession, created chances. They got the own goal from Solly March or Harrison, whichever one. Not really obvious, but they got the goal. They had control of it, but then Leeds made some substitutions, and then space started to open up. There was a lot of space, especially down that left hand side when Nonto came on. He was able to find space. He was able to find his teammates a lot of times, dribbling and passing, and Leeds put it onto Brighton at the end, and they got a great goal to equalise from Jack Harrison, an amazing right-footed shot, top corner, and a big goal for Leeds. They just needed something out of the game. Brighton, you want to not lose your home games, and a big point. It doesn't take them out of the relegation zone, but a win could take them to 14th. That's how little that gap is. So just to keep getting points are so massive. 1 point, a goal difference matters so much, and against a team in Brighton that could be even changing the top 4 this season, I think that's a great point for Leeds. And wasn't the greatest performance by them. It was really sloppy at times. Still in the final third, and not look great. Ruta off the bench doesn't look great at all, does he? Bamford still, despite his goal, not clicking like he did. Rodrigo's back, which is good for them. Aronson again, just underwhelming. But Nonto, that threat down left off the bench was really, really good. And they just can't really get that consistency in performances right now. But a good result for them. Not great performance, good result. Brighton, De Zerbi was clearly angry at the end of the game. He wasn't really happy with their sloppiness. It could have been an easy win for them. It really could have, but they let it go from themselves and their own mistakes. Another team that have really slowly been dragged into this relegation battle over the last few weeks is Leicester, who lost 3-1 to Chelsea. And Chelsea, we'll talk about them first. Since switching to the 3 at the back, 3 wins out of 3. Imagine switching a formation that actually suits your players. It's what everyone said beforehand, like that this squad is built for a theory that you don't have a defensive midfielder. You're playing Enzo Fernandez and Kovacic in a pivot with a forward back. There's no protection there. But now there's three at the back with Kovacic and Fernandez in midfield, whilst it's still not performing that well, and they were kind of got lucky at times. It's helping them get results. Chilwell down the left, he got his goal from the right hand side, but Chilwell down the left, when Reece James is back down the right, it just suits the players a lot more. You have multiple centre defenders that kind of aren't forward the back defenders. Thiago Silva and Koulibaly maybe. It's not suited forward back. You can even play Cucurella at left centre back. It's just such a squad. Even like your forwards, Felix, Havertz, Mount, they're just much better in that central space up front. And they really just took advantage of Leicester's weaknesses. Leicester's weaknesses are just that centre back pairing of Suter and Faes. It's just so open behind them. They really, really haven't got that connection yet. They really struggle with balls in behind them. And again, there's balls in behind that Chelsea really took advantage of. They had quite a few chances they didn't even take from that. And just pretty bad from So they had their chances. A great goal by Daka to equalise, but Dewsbury Hall had chances, a couple of other chances. They just really couldn't take their chances, and 5 losses in a row of them in all competitions now, 4 in the Premier League. In them 5 games, 2 goals scored and 10 goals conceded, and now they're level on points with the team in the relegation zone. I think a few weeks ago they were 5-6 points. I thought they're slowly going back and back and back, and now they're there. They're just right in this next week. They could be in the relegation zone. But now they have 4 games against Brentford, Crystal Palace, Aston Villa and Bournemouth. They're 4 winnable games for them. All winnable. If they play to that A game, but they really haven't been playing to that recently. But they're all winnable games, all massive games. You expect Leicester, with the quality they have, you expect them to come out, but this season, it kind of seems to be the better teams that work well together just seem to be better. It doesn't matter about the individual quality, which they have much better individual quality than most teams that they're up against. But they just can't work as a team together, and that's put them in the relegation zone, especially in that midfield of Mendy and Marty. I think no, not Marty. Dewsbury Hall. That Tielemans is out now. Sumari is not that great, and Didi's just completely dropped off. They're really struggling that midfield area, and it really struggling against Enzo Fernandez and Kovacic, who had good games as well. It's really struggling in that area. I mean, they could have still got something out of this game, which kind of says something maybe about both of them and Chelsea. But they just need to start getting results. Like Chelsea aren't playing well, but they're getting results. They need to start getting results when they're not playing well, and that's not happening to them right now. Next game, Spurs 3, Nottingham Forest 1. Spurs, another great first half from Spurs. I said last week against Wolves, they were really good in the first half against Wolves. They just didn't take their chances. This time they did. Harry Kane with a header, then the penalty, and that was kind of a guaranteed win at that point when you're 2-0 up. Or to Spurs, but yeah. And then Son just after half time with the goal. Really good performance by him. The goal, he created 5 chances. A much better performance by Son. Kulusevski didn't start, it was Richarlison who started. Just a very good first half and beginning of the second half performance by Spurs, and after that it wasn't great. Maybe they just dropped off. They didn't need to put in any effort to go up against Nottingham Forest. So 3-0 up, but you'd like to see them do that for 90 minutes rather than just 50 minutes and sit back. But that's not Antonio Conte's style. But yeah, it was just quite an easy win for Spurs. Nottingham Forest were just really bad again. They've been so bad recently. Really, really poor. No wins in the last 5 games in all competitions. 1 win in the last 9. Really, really bad. And in all them 9 games, they lost an XG in all of them. So that just shows it's quite consistently poor performances rather than just getting unlucky. It's consistent poor performances. They're not creating enough, and they conceded so many chances. And I think what's changed is the January transfer window. I like some of their signings, like Felipe and Navas, but like John Joe Shelby midfield. it kind of ruined their rhythm a bit. Even Chris Wood up front, like, kind of ruined their rhythm. They were kind of getting this rhythm together just before that, and signing even more players. It just doesn't seem to work. It really doesn't work. Look what happened to Chelsea as well. You can't just keep signing players. You had that rhythm, you had that group of players, work with it. And it usually it sometimes works out. You don't need to keep constantly buying players, and they're really suffering because I can see them getting relegated now because they're just in that spiral right now. They're 14th, but they're 2 points off the relegation zone. A couple of weeks ago, we were talking about they're in bad form, but they got that gap of 6 or 7 points. They got that little buffer, but now that buffer's completely gone, and you can see on current form they are probably the worst team in the league right now on current form, and I don't think it's really even close on current form. And they, even with the high quality of Champions League quality players of Felipe and Navas, they can't do it in it, and it's just away in the Premier League. They're away in the Premier League. I don't know what happens to them at home. They're decent. They're not amazing, but they're decent, and the home form's carrying them. But away, 13 played, 1 win, 3 draws, 9 losses, 4 goals scored, 32 against. 4 goals scored in 13 away games. That's really, really poor. And they missed a penalty at the end of this game. They scored one with Aurora, but didn't matter. But yeah, they really need to start getting this away form up because you can't just keep relying on this home form and like the crowd to get them going at home. They need to get something going away, and maybe one win changes that, one result changes that away from home. But for now, it's looking really, really bad for Nottingham Forest. And for Spurs, out of the Champions League now, they're out of the FA Cup against Sheffield as well. The league is the only thing they can do now, and a big result for them. Newcastle and Liverpool and Brighton are up their backside, and they're going to have to keep getting these results against smaller teams because that's where they've been struggling, especially against these teams. But a big win for them, and kind of gets them out that rut. They could have gone into a bigger rut if they got after the Sheffield result, after the Wolves result, after the AC Milan result, where they didn't score a goal in either of the games. But big performance to get out of that, which it could have spiraled, especially after Conte's comments with Richarlison and all that. Big result for them. And then moving on to the 5:30 game, Man City 1, Crystal Palace 0. Routine. Wasn't routine for City. It was actually Crystal Palace defending quite well. They didn't show any threat on the counter or any desire to. Well, they showed desire to get forward. They just had no quality up there. But they Crystal Palace come like that typical like Spanish team, like a Villarreal, like a Sociedad, like a Betis. They just don't sit back. They don't sit forward. They don't threaten too much. On some games they can possession style. They don't go direct. They try to play out. They're kind of draining performances. They sit narrow. They all clog up midfield, and it's just stale in it at Crystal Palace right now. And they were doing well. They were defending well. They did limit City chances. They did defend actually quite well. They didn't allow it much penetration into the final third into the box. They defended in their shape very well, but lapse of concentration by Elise. Gundogan kind of bought the foul bit, but Elise gave him the decision to. And yeah, it kind of led. It was kind of probably coming at some point, but Haaland took away penalty, and after that they couldn't even. They mounted it as hacks, but they couldn't even get any good shots or chances away. But yeah, 4 shots on goal in Palace in this game. 4, 3 shots on target in no shots on target in 3 Premier League games now. That kind of says something about their performances recently. Yeah, 4 shots on goal at home. It should be. Yeah, City now 8 games unbeaten, 3 straight clean sheets. Just get into that rhythm of winning now. This is kind of the time of the season where City start doing this, where they just start winning games, and it's not sometimes pretty, but they're just getting that rhythm of winning, and it looks like they're in that. But Crystal Palace, about winning 10 Premier League games, and now they're facing Brighton and Arsenal, both away. Big games, and you don't expect them to get anything out of them 2 games. The way they've been playing recently, the way they're just kind of sitting back, kind of like Brighton and Arsenal, probably the worst teams to do that against right now. And with them just like it's like Nottingham Forest. I said a few weeks ago, they have that buffer. They have that 7-8 points. It was bigger than Forest. It's like 7-8 points. Like but they're not winning. They're not winning. They're not winning. You go slowly, like it's sleepwalking into relegation right now, and they are. I know they've faced really tough opponents recently, but you've got to get one result here and there, and they've just not got a single one, or even like a performance worthy of a win either. But yeah, now they're just 3 points of relegation. Really, really bad from them. Yeah, you don't want this to then carry into the latest parts of the season where you are facing teams where you should be beating or should be competing with, and you just haven't got that mentality of winning, or that you're kind of too desperate at times, or you just haven't felt that winning feeling in a while, and it kind of just gets to your team. That's what could the effect of Chris Palace could have right now, and yeah, just a really, really just state of attacking performance like it has been recently and all season, to be honest, from them. Moving on to the Sunday's games, Manchester United 0, Southampton 0. As a United fan, frustrating game because we're playing against 12 men, but it was a decent start. I'll say this: decent start from Southampton. They pressed hard, they got chances, they forced mistakes from United. United really stopping the ball, but I think just before the red card, they were kind of starting to open up. There were chances there, poor balls or poor controls really hindered United. And over 90 minutes, I think United would have won this game because Southampton were kind of really open in transition at times. United were really posed on the counter attack, but the red card, I don't think it was a red card. I don't think it was a red card. He went in his studs up, but in slow motion, yeah, it looks bad, but he gets the ball, and because he gets the ball, it deflects his foot to the right. Like, how was that a red card? He didn't go through the man. He got the ball and it deflected his foot to the right. That's not a red card. It just isn't. It's just the referee in this country has just been really, really bad and inconsistent, especially when you see the challenges like Ricardo Pereira against Chelsea on just the day before. You see the Van Dijk and the Fabinho challenges for Liverpool. Just really, really inconsistent. And then to make matters worse, the referee, they just they don't give a clear penalty. Better Kotchap falls in the box. As he's falling, he puts his arm down and stops the ball going straight to Valvekos in the box. Now, if he was a yard away from the player, it's not a penalty. But Rashford crossed the ball from outside the box. He had time to read the situation. But he fell over and just blocked the ball from going to Valvekos in the box. But they'll mention the rule of, he's using his body in a natural position, but that's just a penalty. Stop doing all these rules. He handled the ball in the box, stopping Vekos getting the ball. It's just a penalty. It just is. And then, the one later with Rashford and Bazunu does clip him. If you slow it down, if you use the slow motion to show that Casemiro gets a red card, use it to show that Bazunu clipped Rashford, made him clip his heels, and tripped him over in the box. Didn't slow it down for that one. And the one that's frustrating is the one on Garnacho where probably outside the box is probably a foul from Kyle Walker-Peters because he does scissor him. It's just as dangerous as Casemiro's going studs up because he just, like what happened with Ericsson, like what happened with Donny van der Beek, they get injured and Garnacho left the game in a boot and crutches because he just scissor him and caught his ankles. Like, that is a foul. You can't scissor a player like that. But really bad refereeing for Anatarian on the day, and really, really bad. But after red card, Southampton really didn't press in that much, to be honest. But United actually went at them in the second half. They left so much space on the counter, but Lisandro Martinez and Rafael Varane were very good in defence, and Southampton had their chances. They ripped through Walcott with the big one, but they didn't really control the game that much in the second half. And United had their chances. Fernandes with his chance, big save from Bazunu. They had hit the post twice, or hit the work twice from Kyle Walker-Peters and James Ward-Prowse from a free kick. But other than that, they didn't really threaten that much. As United, especially late in the game, it kind of posed more of a threat. But I think it's a good point for Southampton. I think, despite the circumstances, they still would have taken the point. And under Sellers, have been actually getting results. Under Graham Jones, you can kind of see them dropping back. But under Sellers, they've actually done quite well. In his 4 Premier League games, we ignored the cup for Southampton fans, but But 2 wins, a draw, and a loss, and a win against Chelsea, big win against Leicester as well. But they're still bottom of the league. But there's just 2 points of staying up. If this is Graham Jones, you see him with a draw and 3 losses probably. But they're getting results, which is the important thing, and they're looking like a good team, especially the midfield with James Ward-Prowse and Romeo Lavia looking really, really good in this game. Really had United struggling at times, even with Casemiro in the pitch with that midfield. We'll move on from that game just for my sanity. West Ham won, Aston Villa won. West Ham just not getting results. They played decently well in this game. They didn't, play amazing. It kind of like was a West Ham performance from the last few years. A lot of corners, a lot of chances, but they weren't able to convert any of them. It's a good goal from Ollie Watkins, good cross by Alex Moreno for the first goal for Aston Villa, open lead early. Again, I'll say it after every single game. They still scored in every game under Unai Emery so far. 15 games and 24 goals and a goal in every single game. Really, really impressive by Aston Villa. That's a very impressive thing to do. But yeah, that's Watkins' 8th goal under Emery. He's really, really brightened up under him. And I think it's good that they kind of invest him as their main striker now. But Lee didn't last too long because after Watkins cleared the ball off the line to save a goal, then West Ham get a penalty as Leon Bailey fouled Lucas Paqueta, but it was kind of a soft penalty. Lucas Paqueta kind of stopped running and Bailey just ran into him. Like, that's not really a foul because it's in the box, but the ball's going away, and if Paqueta was actually playing for the ball, he goes towards the ball, but he just kind of stops, allows Bailey to run into him, and goes down. I don't really think that's a foul myself, but they get the penalty in bum run places as well. But second half, there's chances for both sides. Really good save by Areola from Watkins. But that's funny. That's just before half time, but great save by Areola, kept them in the game. That weird that there was no penalty on the end from Rice on Buendia. That kind of looked like a penalty. I don't know why that didn't happen, but this game didn't really mean much. Games don't really matter that much to Aston Villa right now. They're not going to go up too many positions. They're not going to go down any positions right now. But a good result from him away from home against West Ham, who are very much struggling right now. They're out of the relegation zone. The point did get them out of the relegation zone. They were in the relegation zone before that game, but it's only on goal difference. 2 wins in the last 14 Premier League games. Eesh. Not looking great for them. Not looking great. The performances aren't there. Even in midweek in the Europa Conference League, I don't even know they played. Couldn't tell you, but I looked at the performances and it wasn't great. They just need some injection and something that just really stale. It was kind of like Crystal Palace. It's just not, the performances aren't there to motivate the players, the fans right now, and really, really, really struggling with it. And that's why they're in relegation after fighting for Europe for a few years. Just performances, and it's just not really good. Good performance from Arsenal though. 3-0 win away to Fulham. But I think the most valuable player to their team in the Premier League this season has shown to be João Paulinho. He's missed these games against Brentford and Arsenal. They've conceded 6 in 2 games. In their previous 10 games, they've conceded 5. He is so important to them. On the ball, off the ball, defensive position. He's so levels above anyone in that Fulham team, and he was such a big miss in these 2 games. They were really bad in the first half, just so open at times. Arsenal did really well. Trossard 3 assists, looked really good, and Arsenal just easily preyed through him at times, and a lot of touches in the box, and it's been improved in the second half, but kind of Arsenal kind of took their foot on the gas, kind of saved a bit of energy for the Europe game against Sporting Lisbon in midweek. But yeah, I think good bounce back since the City lost for Arsenal, 5 straight wins in the league, and yeah, 5 points ahead of City again now. But now they've also got back-to-back home games against Leeds and Crystal Palace, where you expect them to win. And yeah, really, really good result for Arsenal. Fulham, without João Paulinho, you don't really expect them to, compete for these games. He's just been so important to them being the level they have been at this season, which is top 7-8 finish. Without him, they are a relegation candidate side, and it kind of showed in this game. They were just weren't able to get it going consistently at all. Big win for Newcastle. First win in 5 Premier League games. Big win. Wasn't the easiest win. They made it hard for themselves. They really flew out the box in this game. Really threatening. Isaac and St. Maximin down that left hand side found so much joy in front, so much space. Isaac got the goal from the Trippier free kick. Really good header. Important they get him going this season for seasons to come. But yeah, St. Maximin and Isaac really threatened down the side, but the end product just wasn't there. It really wasn't there. They had a few chances, a few last ditch blocks from Wolves, a few penalty shouts here and there. Wolves had the penalty shouts of their own from Jimenez and Pope. But yeah, just the end product just wasn't there. They're just lacking that final bit of quality, aren't they? Just really lacking that final bit of quality, and it allowed Wolves just to stay in the game. They were really bad in the first half. They got back in the second, kind of like what they did to Tottenham last week, but they didn't concede against Tottenham, which was kind of lucky at times. But they got back into the game. They got that lucky goal from Hangry Chan. But then Newcastle stepped up again. Almiron came on and his deflection shot won them the game, which is massive for them because they just really needed a win. Really needed a win. And it's their first Premier League goal with 2 goals in 8 games. That shows how bad their attack has been recently. Really bad, and their attack really affected the defence as well. But yeah. Wolves as well, 3 points off relegation. That draw kind of would have been the big result for them. Just have that 2-game gap between them and the relegation zone. But yeah, the next 2 games, Leeds United and Nottingham Forest. Big games, really big games at the bottom. There's just so little of a gap at the bottom now. Between Southampton in 20th and Crystal Palace in 12th, there's 5 points. 5 points. It's just so tight at the gap at the bottom, which kind of shows where the Premier League is this season. It's good teams and bad teams. That's all it is. The good teams are getting better, the bad teams are staying where they are, and there's just so much differential in the Premier League this season. But yeah, I think the relegation battle is just the most entertaining thing about this season. It's not much else. The top 4 may be a bit of a battle towards the end of the season, but the relegation battle, there's so little in it this season. We haven't had this. We've had teams, last season was good for the relegation battle, but teams will probably drop off and go up the next few weeks. But with just over 10 games to go, we haven't had this many teams fearing relegation in so long, which is bad for them, but entertaining as a neutral to watch. But yeah, that's going to be an episode. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe.